everybody, welcome to Whatculture. I'm Scott, joined by Josh.
Hello, Scott.
Josh, my friend, do you like Damon Lindelof?
That's a big question, buddy. That's a big question. Yes,
possibly
or no?
One of the most divisive creators in the modern day. Damon Lindelof is apparently attached to a new Star Wars film, and now this goes back to 2013 when he was initially rumored to be attached to Star Wars stuff, and when the franchise was about to be rebooted, when J.J. Abrams was in conversation. So way back in 2013, he was initially tapped to be one of the creatives that will be given the reins on Star Wars. Smash cut to right now, where website The Ankler are saying that initial idea has finally been followed up on, also reported by Slash Film, who pulled a quote from 2020 asking Lindelof about the idea of him taking over Star Wars, to which he said that it wouldn't be in the immediate future. Now, this is back in 2020. He said that he would like to do something in the Star Wars universe, maybe a decade from now, when I wouldn't be blamed for ruining it, which is a nice idea. He said there would be a hoot. So what would you like Mr. Lindelof to do?
Kind of get a co-writer in, so he doesn't go completely nuts with the story. I like a lot of Lindelof stuff. You know, I like the Watchmen TV show.
Yep.
I like a lot of Prometheus, but
yeah, no.
I mean, I like a lot of Lost. And
I love Lost.
This is the thing. I like a lot of the stuff that he does, but so often it has the potential to go off the rails. I think is the polite way to maybe say that.
Let's focus on one of the positives, which I think overall, regardless of where you come down on Lindelof's, like the big three for him, I think are Lost, Watchmen, and Prometheus. Regardless of all three, I think he does incentivize a lot of fan discussion, which is something that I really want in my Star Wars. If I was going to think of something that would get people more engaged, it is the fan theories, it is, you know, the wider timey-wimey stuff that he always does, multiple timeline stuff, this affecting this thing affects this thing, maybe some wider mystery stuff that he always seems to inject into his shows. Obviously that was the case in Lost. There was the whole alternate reality game that explained what the numbers were. There's all that stuff. I do and I don't want Star Wars to have a lost numbers adjacent thing.
Right.
But if he went that deep on it, that would be a whole new dimension to Star Wars storytelling or Star Wars lore building, and that hasn't been done in the movies or the TV shows. Like, I would kind of welcome that level of stuff.
Yeah.
Like with a whole bunch of us as fans trying to figure out what something means or whatever. I don't know how malleable Star Wars is in that regard, but I would be open to a Lindelof Star Wars thing.
Well, that's always the interesting thing, isn't it? When, you know, the Star Wars franchise has gotten directors, for better or worse, with a distinct style in, and writers, for better or worse, with a distinct style in, how much of themselves and how much they're allowed to kind of exert onto the story, how much agency they're allowed to, that they're given to create a unique story. Obviously, you know, we had that tumultuous period where we were trying to get all of these solo, well, literally in one case, the solo movie, but, you know, like the Obi-Wan movie and stuff off the ground. A lot of those directors and writers came in, and then they didn't fit the vision of Lucasfilm, and they were taken out. So I can kind of get Lindelof's approach of being like, look, I will come back eventually, and I would love to do it eventually, but not now. Obviously, in this post-Rise of Skywalker world, where all of the kind of movie projects are up in the air, no one knows what is really coming next, it must be terrifying to have to be the first out of the gate.
Well, the thing that he's citing here, I mean, obviously he's kind of joking about taking it a decade before things feel fresh again, but how do you think Star Wars feels in 2030? Like, if we're that far removed from Rise of Skywalker, if they've done episode 10 by then, do they wait then and do episode 10? Right. If they even do any more episodes, I don't know what Star Wars feels like with another decade on top of it.
That's the thing. I know what Star Wars feels like in the TV show space. I think The Mandalorian, the first season, obviously established that there is a universe there and that you can do Star Wars on the small screen, and you can tell these stories and people will gravitate towards them in a way that, even though they only had one attempt they had two attempts with like the Star Wars story. They had Rogue One and they had Solo. Obviously that was more hit and miss. People really loved and resonated with Rogue One. They didn't resonate with Solo, and then they were all canned. I can visualize the next 10 years of Star Wars content on television in a way that I can't in the movie space. I don't know, and thank God I'm not in charge, what they do next with the movieverse, who they get on board, what they do.
There's also that thing with Lindelof where if you like your Lindelof, if he's some salt you're pouring on something, not in an angry sense, but I mean in a flavoring sort of sense, then that flavor tends to work better over long-form storytelling, tends to work better in an episodic format. The Leftovers, for as much as season 1 was kind of all over the place, very much got there in the later seasons, and there's a whole bunch of people who absolutely swear by The Leftovers as one of the best TV shows ever made because it is so all over the place, and then they start bringing stuff together in around about season 3. But at the same time, you can contrast that almost directly with Prometheus, which was as wide-reaching but had nowhere near the time to deliver on stuff, and then it was just messy as hell. So I kind of would incentivize, if Mr. Lindelof, if he's over there, I would rather he did a TV show. I would rather he did a TV show than try and squeeze all of his ideas into a movie. Unless they driven a trilogy, Ryan Johnson style,
They
or
might
whatever, he needs time to deliver. And I think that if you crunch him into a 2-hour period and do the whole, right, make this work, and if it doesn't work, we're going to can everything else, he then can't plan for the future, he can't set things up properly, he can't do a Lindelof.
Well, you raise a fascinating point there in and of itself, I think. That is the future of Star Wars in the movie universe, standalone films, or is it sagas? Is it trilogies? Is it, their own sub-series? Ryan Johnson was obviously announced as directing and writing his own trilogy.
Yep.
Like, will Lindelof get something similar, or are they going to be more trepidatious with announcing these things so far in advance and take it one step at a time? Will they be isolated? Will they be part of an overarching thing? That's my big question. But also, Scott, I've got to know why you got yourself on screen. Like, what's going on here?
Look, I didn't realize anyone was taking a picture of me from 2003. But at the same time, you made a very good point, which is the thing I was going to go into. I think that Star Wars works best when they stick to what George Lucas said back in like the 70s, the idea that Star Wars is a bunch of toys. It's a toolkit. It's a bunch of things that you give to a creator or a certain set of people and see what they do with it. When he initially sketched out the idea of 12 Star Wars movies, then after that he was always just going to give it to different people and see what they did. I like that idea more. That's why I wanted to put Star Wars Visions up here, because for me it was one of the most interesting, engaging, and unique fields to Star Wars that we've had in quite some time. The polar opposite of the synthetic, corporate, boring as hell Rise of Skywalker toss that was the absolute dog worst. I would still maintain that The Last Jedi, regardless of where you come down on it, is a phenomenal film if you separated it from that trilogy. If it was just about a Jedi who lost his way, whatever, I would take that movie. It just didn't work in the middle of the trilogy for me. So I like that idea of, everyone knows what Star Wars is, everyone knows the core tenets of the franchise, whether it be lightsabers, the Force, whatever, and just have fun with those core tenets. I think if the Batman proves anything, it's that you don't need a shared universe. You can pick and choose these things, and people will come.
That's actually quite interesting, Scott. I didn't even think of the Batman in those terms, but you might be right. The future of Star Wars in the movieverse is a kind of fascinating sense of possibility, and I totally get Lindelof, just like I said, kind of being trepidatious about it, not wanting to be the first, but I would like to see what he had to offer to this universe whenever he's ready to deliver.
If the moneymakers, the people at the top, can grant him a trilogy and he's allowed full creative freedom within a trilogy, and you don't cancel the second and the third one, I would take that. I would also take the standalone stuff. Like I said, the likes of the Batman, the likes of the way that DC seem to be going forward, is a way to separate from the MCU feel, from the shared universe feel, from the idea that everything matters with everything else. I think you can do individual stories or individual sets of stories, and someone like Lindelof would make one hell of one of them. I think it would be incredibly unique and identifiable. So let us know what you think down in the comments below. Do you want Mr. Lost, Mr. Prometheus getting hands on Star Wars, or is that just the dog worst thing that could possibly happen? I've been Scott from Whatculture.com.
I've been Josh from Whatculture.com.
And we'll catch you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.